Hello everyone, it's Dove again. So tonight I am making a pasta salad for dinner, and I thought I would show you my recipe here. I use a whole pound of pasta. This time I have fusilli, but sometimes I have other shapes. And it's a really super easy pasta salad. And I'm going to cook that whole pound of pasta in that small amount of water. I'm not sure if you can tell how little there is, but it only goes up to like right there on my finger, and so that I don't have to drain any water and waste any water. So this is how I normally cook pasta, is just with the least amount of water available. I've already got it up on max. I'm gonna go ahead and put the lid on it. I don't put the salt in yet until the water starts getting hot, because I don't want the salt to go down and sit on the bottom of the pot and pit the stainless steel. And so I just use a pound of pasta, and it's 5 ounces of pepperoni. There's no nitrates or anything in it, and it's natural. And I use a whole package, 8 ounces of pepper jack. I cube that. And I usually use whole tomatoes, but I had these, and so I'll probably just cut these in half or in thirds. Some of the big ones I'll probably have to cut in thirds. And I'll use those. And I also put green onions in it, and I also put a whole can of black olives in there. And this is actually smaller than what I normally use, because I've always just made it with the peppers that I grow and can here, and they were always the pint jar. This is a 12-ounce jar, and so that'll have to do. But normally I use the yellow banana peppers anyways, and so this is actually going to make it even hotter, so it's okay that there's only 12 ounces. And then the dressing for it that goes on top of it, I use white wine vinegar, but this time I might not have enough because it calls for a half a cup, and I don't think that's enough. So I'm probably going to have to make up for it with red wine vinegar. And then sometimes I use all olive oil, and sometimes I use half olive oil and half sunflower oil, and I actually like to use half and half, so that's just what I've stuck with in recent years. And then I just put salt and a little bit of sugar and some spices, and that makes my dressing. So I am going to let this water boil, and then I'm going to cook the pasta, and in the meantime I'm going to cut these things up. These need cleaned and cut up. And then I quarter these pieces of pepperoni. So I will see you in a bit. Hold on. Okay, so I took that out to the garden and I drained it, and I have to work quickly now because pasta, after you drain it, it wants to stick together. I'm going to dump that in here, and I've got to work quickly to make my dressing to pour over it so that it will stop sticking together. I also dumped that juice out in the garden too, because there's really nothing else I can do with it. So it probably would be best to have your dressing ready, but it took me forever to do the prep because I had to stop and talk to other people. So I just make this all in one big bowl. This is actually almost too small, if you could believe it. This is the biggest bowl I have, and it's almost not big enough. So I need a half a cup of vinegar. Normally I use all white wine vinegar, but I don't have enough this time. So now I've got to mix it with the red wine vinegar. That was about 1/4 cup, so I'm doing about 1/4 cup of red wine vinegar. You could use apple cider vinegar or whatever. And this particular measuring cup, I love this thing. This is Tupperware. It has ounces and cups, and so I need 3/4 cup of oil, and that's 6 ounces. So that is very easy for me to split up the two, because I can go down here in between the 2 and the 4, and that mark right there is my 3 mark, 3 ounces. So I can easily measure out half and half. So that's 3 ounces of sunflower oil, organic sunflower oil, and 3 ounces of organic olive oil. Sorry about that. My dishes are clinky. And this is actually a shaker. It's got this little thing that goes in on top, and it helps to shake it up. This is specifically to make salad dressings, which you usually need some kind of shaker for. So I'll add that together. So 1/2 cup of vinegar, 3/4 cup of oil. I use organic cane sugar, and I use 1 tablespoon. And I use about 1 tablespoon or more of this is Mountain Rose Herbs Italian seasoning, and sometimes I go heaping with it. And actually I'm almost out of it, so that's not quite 1 tablespoon, but it's close enough. And that's just Italian seasoning. And then I use 2 teaspoons of Himalayan pink salt. And I don't actually have to use quite that much, because I salted the pasta water and I didn't really drain much of that off. So it doesn't have to be a full 2 teaspoons, but every time I make it, it doesn't seem like it has enough salt, so I've just progressively kept adding more and more over the years. This is white pepper. I just use 1/4 teaspoon. Try not to breathe it in, because it makes me sneeze every time. And then I use 1/2 teaspoon of onion granules, which I probably don't need that many this time because I have green onions to put in here, but I'm going to do it anyways. And then 1/2 teaspoon of garlic granules. That jar is almost empty. So the only thing I have left to cut up is the pepperoni. And I find it easiest, this just sits right down into there. There's a little groove that it sits in. And I find it easiest and less messy if I close up this top first. And then I put it on here, and you have to start at one side and kind of work your way around. And you have to make sure it's on well, or you're going to make a mess. So I just go all the way around and make sure that's on tight. And then I shake it up as much as I can. And because the pasta is still hot right now, I can't add some of the ingredients, especially like the cheese. I can't add that because this is supposed to be a cold pasta. This is not a hot pasta salad. And it's pretty well combined there. And I just take my spatula and scrape out that lid there straight into the pasta, because I don't want to lose any of that dressing. So this is basically a vinaigrette dressing. That's all this is vinaigrette dressing. You put oil and vinegar and your spices, and that's it. And this is very hard to clean. This particular gadget, very hard to clean. I'm not gonna like cleaning it as a nomad. I know that. I already know that. Because I don't even like cleaning it when I'm in a sticks and bricks. So, and then I just pour this in evenly over the top of that. And I always scrape out my measuring cups. I'm not going to leave any of that goodness behind. It all goes in. And as I said before, this is almost too small of a bowl, but this is literally the biggest bowl I have. This is more than likely not something I'm going to be making on the road. So I guess I will just enjoy it now while I can. And now this will sit and start cooling off. And it seems like there's too much oil in there right now. And there would be. If you were not adding anything else, this would be too much vinaigrette. Not just oil, it's vinegar and oil. So it's a vinaigrette. So it would be too much dressing if you were not adding anything else. But I'm adding all this other stuff. I can go ahead and put the peppers in. I already drained the jalapenos. And they're all stuck in there, so it's okay if they get warm, and it's okay if the olives get warm. I drain the olives and then I just cut them in half. So I just stir this in and I wait pretty much until the end to add the cheese, because I don't want the cheese to get melted. I want it to be little blocks of cheese like it is now. And I'm not like trying to cook the tomatoes or anything, so I'm going to wait to add the tomatoes as well. Because right now they would just kind of start cooking. Not real bad, you know, because this is cooling off quickly, but I just prefer to wait until the end to add the tomatoes and the cheese. And the green onions. I also wait until the end to add the green onions. Some of those jalapeno slices are pretty big, but my family likes hot stuff, so that is definitely not a problem. And you can use any cheese you like, but again, this is kind of like a pizza pasta. We like things hot, so I use pepper jack cheese. Alright, so the last thing I need to do is cut up the pepperoni. So hold on. Alright, so I got my pepperoni all cut up, and even though this is still warm, I can start adding it. I've already started adding it. And what I did was I just took those long lines of pepperoni. You might have been able to tell in the time lapse. It goes pretty fast though. But I took them and I stacked them into little stacks, and then I just cut them into quarters, and then I just sat there and broke them up because they were all stuck together. So that's how I have to handle the pepperoni. And I just add a little bit of it at a time and start stirring it together. And no matter how much I break that up, it really likes to stick back together. So I might be wasting my time by breaking up the pepperoni, but if I didn't do that, it would probably be even worse. And what I like to try to do is, you know, make it so that every bite you take, you have something, a little bit of everything on the spoon or your fork or whatever. And I can feel there's just a little bit of warmth on the bowl right now. not too bad. So I think I can go ahead and see what I mean. This is messy. It would be much better with a bigger bowl. But I'm just working with what I have. And here on the tomatoes, I just cut them basically in half, and sometimes in quarters, sometimes in thirds. And there was a lot of seeds in here, and I don't really like to put all those seeds in there. So instead of just dumping it straight into the bowl here, I'm picking them up and kind of separating them from the seeds that were left behind. Because sometimes the seeds can be a little bit bitter, especially if they're green inside. I know, I'm way too picky. I'm way too much of a perfectionist. That's my downfall, I guess. And that is it. I'm gonna put the cheese in and the green onions. And this is such a challenge. And so if you're doing this and you have a small bowl like this, or a big bowl that seems small, just keep your hand around the perimeter of the bowl and try to stir from the outside inwards. I'm not sure if you can tell what I'm doing on the camera there, but I'm going from the outside inwards, and I'm just basically folding all those ingredients together. And see, I can see right there the pepperoni is trying to stick back together. They're really good friends with each other. That's just some green onions that I had left over before. These here in this bowl, they're the fresh green onions that I just cut tonight. And I don't really measure it. I don't put them all in. I just put whatever looks good. That was probably about a handful. And I can always add more if I want to. And now that I've been stirring it and putting all the other ingredients in. And so now it's to the point where, yeah, it's not hot now. Now I can add the cheese. I don't know if you could see that in the time lapse, but when you cut cheese, it sticks together. So I was sitting there trying to break up all the pieces that had stuck together. And we love cheese. If I had more room in this bowl, we would be putting more cheese in here. We love cheese here. And no matter how much I try to be neat, something always tries to escape. If I didn't have my hand right here on this side of the bowl, there would be a lot slopping out right now. So I just turn the bowl and I fold it from the outside in. And as I'm looking at it, I can see if there's enough green onion in there or not. I've never used regular onion in here, but you could. If you didn't have green onion, you could use regular onion. So I'm going to add a little bit more green onion. I'm running out of paper towel over there. If you don't like it real hot, use the banana peppers. Try to find banana peppers. They don't have to be organic. I could find non-organic banana peppers all day long. It's just that I prefer to buy everything in organic, and we don't mind hot food. And so the fact that I could only get sliced jalapenos was not a big deal to me. Oh God, there it went. I have to eat everything that comes out of the bowl. I can't put it back in the bowl. So this will be good tonight, but it'll be good for the next 5 days too. It's just that after it's set for a day, when you go to serve it again, you need to stir it back up from the bottom, because some of that oil is going to want to try to settle down to the bottom. And so the next day and the day after that, before you get a portion out, just make sure you stir it up really good, just like this again, so that you get all that vinaigrette up from the bottom of the bowl. I'm going to leave that so I can show you. Hold on. I'm going to show you this pepperoni and how it's trying to be here on me. Right there. You see that blob? That's pepperoni sticking to itself. And no matter how many times I try to separate it, it tries to stick back together. So that's just the nature of my little pizza pasta salad here, is that the pepperoni has a mind of its own. But I just stir it in as much as possible. And that's it. It's perfectly seasoned. It is a bit spicy, but you can always adjust it to your liking if you don't like spicy stuff. You don't have to use pepper jack. You could just use like regular cheddar or whatever. But that's it. That's my pasta salad. Alright guys, talk to you later. Have a good one.